So as you can see, guys, it's quite straightforward to make a studio type of environment in your garage. It doesn't have to be a double garage, it could be a single garage, and just using stuff that you find around the house. Obviously you might need some stands and some tripods and lighting that most photographers have stuck away somewhere. If not, you can borrow or rent. And then generally all you need to do is concentrate on your lighting, and the biggest thing for products is reflections. So you need to take a close look at the product you're photographing, have a look all over it and see what's reflecting, because that's the hardest thing. This is why we use so much white, to try and white out the surroundings so that anything that reflects off the surface is just going to give you a nice white sheer. There's not going to be any distractions like lines or reflections of poles or lamps or stuff. So that's basically what you're going for, unless of course you're wanting stylized lighting where you actually want shadows, or you want it to be a bit more of a messy scene where there are things reflecting in it. This is a beauty product, so we try and keep it as clean and crisp and neutral as possible, thus the white. Also, if I didn't have a white ceiling in this garage or roof, there would have been a problem. I would have had to drape one of these white sheets across. Fortunately it is white, and you'll see that quite a few of the lights are bounced up, so that whatever reflects off the top of the product of the roof is also going to be white. So try and keep things as plain and as neutral as possible. And for this type of product, bounced lights, very soft light is the way to go. You don't want any harsh shadows, you don't want any harsh highlights either. So bouncing a light into an umbrella in this case, or onto the ceiling, or onto this fabric on the side, just gives you a very soft light. I'm working with LED lights here. I would normally shoot with flash, but in this scenario our object isn't going anywhere, it's not moving, so we can use longer shutter speeds. Some of the shutter speeds I'll probably use will be around about up to 2 seconds. Obviously because you're on a tripod, that's fine, and also because the product isn't moving. We don't need the power that studio strobes will give you. What I do like about LED lighting or tungsten lighting is that you can move it around, and what you're seeing on your product is exactly what you're going to get on your photograph. Obviously with flashes you've got a modeling lamp and then the bulb that actually exposes, and the lighting is a little bit different. Obviously your color temperature is different, but then also the shape of the light or the reflected light, the nature of the light isn't exactly what you're seeing with your modeling lamps on. With available or tungsten or LED lights, what you see is what you get. Also, it's nice to work with little lights because you can move around and get accents like this. It's a very small light, you can move it, you can get slightly different reflections in your product. You can dim this, you can make it a very subtle light, or you can make it more strong. So you can work more accurately if you're using LED lights. So your basic setup is obviously you've got your products somewhere. Then you've got your accessories that you're going to use. These are kind of props that I'm just going to use to enhance each shot. Spritzer bottle to just spray some nice fine water on your products. It's a nice fresh product, and it's all about water, so it goes quite nicely with the theme. I use a monitor because I find that the screen on your camera just isn't big enough, especially with products, because you don't pick up the dust, etc. But when you're using one of these, it's probably 8 times the size of the screen on your camera. Much better idea of what you're actually going to get. Just mute the sound. So, okay, I haven't even set up a shot, but basically you can see it's much nicer than trying to look at it just on the screen. So it's a very nice thing to use, obviously for video also, but for stills it's got its place. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and shoot our first shot, our first little setup. So basically that's what you're looking at. That's the corner of your garage, and no one will know the difference. You may as well have rented a studio for $5 a day, and how you've just used your existing garage and got clever with some lighting and some white sheeting and some boards and tables and chairs and stuff. And we're going to go ahead and shoot our first setup. Okay, so this is our first setup. These are actually gels that you put on your eyes to take away black rings and wrinkles and just to moisturize your eyes. So we've done a basic setup here. This is the mask that goes with the pack. These are one of the gels sitting here, so we've taken it out of its wrapping. I've used different layers here just to give, often if you're shooting on a white background, things look very flat and kind of uninteresting. So if you give things a few different levels, so you're going to see kind of an off-white and then a white infinity background here. And it's just going to give a little bit of separation and depth, which gives a little bit more interest to the scene. So let's just position this a little bit further down. And what we're trying to do here is get the product and the logo in the same plane of focus. So this is going to be sharp, and then that's slowly going to go out of focus. But it's nice to link the logo with the actual product. We'll use a little bit of spritz just to give it a fresh feel. So 1 second exposure at the moment, which is fine. As long as you've got the camera set up on a tripod, you're good to go. And then use the self timer so that when you depress the shutter on your camera, you're not going to get any shake. So I've pressed it and it's waiting, and then it takes the pic. So that's what we're looking at so far. Lighting is good, there are no bad reflections. Not sure how well you can see that. That's right, let's go product. When shooting product, it's nice to go for a longer focal length. It's nice to create that perspective of a longer focal length rather than something wide which might distort the edges of your product, or especially if you've got a square box and you're shooting wide angle, that can distort it a little bit. So I'm shooting on 120 millimeters there. This is a Panasonic G9, which is a 21 megapixel camera. I don't need bigger quality for this specific shoot, but if I do, there is an option on it where the sensor moves over, I think it's 3 or 4 exposures, and you do actually get an 80 megapixel raw image out of it. And the camera does everything internally, so literally as you put your memory card into your computer, you've got an 80 megapixel raw image just sitting there waiting to be used, which is very nice.